In Nakata village, Nigeria, people loved eating meat. In fact, almost everyone in the village was growing big and strong, some even too fast. This was because they were eating meat nearly every day. Why? Because meat was very cheap. Even people from other villages came to Nakata to buy meat. Rich men who passed through would stop their big cars just to buy meat from James's butchery. James was the main butcher in the village, and his meat was always fresh, soft, and affordable. But there was something strange. Nobody really knew why James's meat was so cheap, and no one knew why James always prepared and cut his meat at night when everyone was sleeping. Some people started talking. A few villagers even refused to buy meat from James. They said they had heard gossip, like James was mixing cow meat with some other kind of meat. Some said it might be meat from another animal, or even something worse, but they were too afraid to say it out loud. One evening, two village men, Baba Shehu and Okan the tailor, sat down under a tree and talked. They were both worried. "Shehu," said Okan, scratching his beard, "don't you find James's meat too soft? It has no bones. It doesn't feel like cow or goat meat." "You are right," Shehu replied. "Even goat meat is harder. This one is soft like boiled yam." They decided to find out the truth. So they made a plan. The next morning they would go very early to James's butchery to see what kind of meat he was preparing before anyone else got there. Before the sun came up, while the birds were still sleeping, Shehu and Okan were already sitting quietly near the butchery. They had brought hot porridge and sat on a bench pretending to just be early risers. James had not yet opened his shop. After a while, James came walking down the road. He was carrying a black plastic bag in one hand and a bunch of keys in the other. He looked surprised to see Shehu and Okan, but then gave them a big smile. "Ah, my brothers, you are early today. You want the freshest meat, eh?" he said happily. "Yes," Shehu replied. "We came to buy meat before it finishes." James opened the butchery and let them inside. Everything looked clean, but something didn't smell quite right. It wasn't bad, just different. "We want 2 kilograms of meat," Okan said. James bent down, opened a box, and brought out some red meat. It looked very fresh, soft, and juicy, but strangely, it had no bones at all. Shehu touched the meat and looked confused. "This meat is too soft," he said. "It feels like boiled bread." Okan picked up a piece and sniffed it. "What part of the cow is this? Is it leg, chest, or back?" James laughed. "Oh, my friends, you don't know premium meat. This is from the neck and the softest part." "Neck?" Shehu said. "Even cow neck is not this soft." James grinned. "My cows are different. I feed them special grass. I even play gospel music for them at night. They are happy cows." "Gospel music?" Okan repeated, looking shocked. "Yes," James said. "Happy cows give soft meat." But Shehu was looking at something else. Below the table, he saw a black plastic bag, the one James had brought. Something round was pressing against the plastic. It looked like a head. "James, what is in that bag?" Shehu asked. James quickly kicked the bag under the table. "Oh, that? It's just a cow head. Special kind," he said. "It looks like a human head," Okan whispered to Shehu. "Bring it here. Let us see," Okan asked James. "Ah, no, that cow was shy. Even when alive, it didn't like people staring," James said jokingly. Okan and Shehu didn't laugh. They just stared at him. James tried to explain more. He said the meat was soft because of how well he treated the cows. He said people were only spreading lies because they were jealous of his business. "Don't listen to the gossip," he told them. "Those are other butchers trying to bring me down." Okan and Shehu nodded slowly, but they were still not sure. James gave them the meat in a bag, expecting payment. But Shehu suddenly said, "Ah, we forgot our money at home." "Yes," Okan added quickly. "We left in a hurry." James looked at them for a moment, then smiled. "No problem, my friends. Just come back with the money later." "Oh, we'll come," Okan said as they walked away. both of them feeling nervous. The moment they turned the corner, the two men started walking fast, almost running. They didn't say a word until they were far away. Later that day, a woman named Mama Patience came from another village. She was wearing a bright yellow wrapper and carrying a basket. She walked into the village looking confused. She met a group of men sitting under a tree and asked, "Please, where is James's butchery?" One of the men looked up and asked, "Why do you want that one?" "There are many butcheries here," Mama Patience smiled. "I want his. His meat is very soft and cheap. I came all the way just to buy from him. Last time I bought it, my children even licked the bones." The men laughed. "Are you sure it's really cow meat?" one asked. "Yes, of course," Mama Patience answered. "What else could it be?" One of the men looked at her closely and said, "Madam, in Nakata village, even soft drinks are not always what they say. Be careful." Mama Patience looked confused, but laughed it off. Meanwhile, back in the village, people were still eating James's meat with joy. They would buy it, roast it on firewood, and eat it right there at the butchery. Some people didn't even bother cooking food. Just the meat was enough. "Honey, I bought meat from James," one man shouted as he entered his house. "No need to cook rice. Just bring pepper and salt." The meat was so tasty that people forgot all the gossip. Even children chewed it happily and licked their fingers. But the whispers didn't stop. "Shehu and Okan said the meat is too soft," someone said at the well. "I heard it has no bone," another replied. "Do cows now come with no bones?" A third laughed. The village kept eating, but the questions were growing. One night something strange happened, something that shocked the whole village, and what happened might stop you from buying meat anywhere you find. It was Easter Sunday in Nakata village, a day of prayer, celebration, and plenty of food. The air was filled with laughter, the smell of spices, and the sound of clanging cooking pots. But above all, there was one thing almost every woman in the village said that day. "I must go and buy meat from James's butchery." "Why?" one woman asked another. Because his meat is soft like ripe banana, fresh, cheap, and has only small bones. Those other butchers sell skeletons. If you cook their meat, you'll need magnifying glasses to find flesh." Even the men agreed. By midday, James's butchery was the busiest place in the entire village. People lined up like school children waiting for free biscuits. James chopped and weighed meat until sweat rolled from his face like a river. By 4 p.m., James was completely tired. His hands were sore, his shirt was soaked, and even his knife looked like it needed rest. When the crowd finally reduced, James packed the remaining meat, cleaned the table, and looked around. The village square was quiet. Most people had gone to prepare for evening church service or dinner with family. James looked at something under the counter, a black kavera, plastic bag. It was round and heavy, shaped like a small watermelon. He picked it up and looked around carefully. Then, with his normal cool face, he walked out of the butchery and headed toward the fruit market. He stopped by a watermelon seller. "Give me that one," he said, pointing at a fat green watermelon. She gave it to him and packed it in another kavera. In the middle of the exchange, James placed the black kavera from his butchery down on the wooden bench beside the watermelon stand. He paid, took the watermelon, and walked away, smiling, completely forgetting the black kavera he had come with. About 15 minutes later, the watermelon seller noticed the black kavera still sitting on her bench. "Whose kavera is this?" she asked aloud, looking around. Nobody answered. She looked left, then right, then bent down and opened it slowly. The moment she saw what was inside, she gasped and jumped back like she had stepped on hot charcoal. "What is this?" People around rushed over. "What happened?" She pointed at the open kavera, her mouth wide and shaking. One bold man stepped forward, looked inside, and froze. Then another, then a third. "It's a head! A human head!" the man shouted. Screams filled the market. People ran, some covered their mouths, others whispered in fear. "Who brought it?" Someone pointed. "I saw James here. He was holding a cavera that looked just like that one." "Yes, I also saw him," another shouted. "He came to buy watermelon." In less than 10 minutes, a crowd had formed. People were confused, angry, and scared. Back at home, James was washing his hands, preparing to rest. That's when it hit him. "Hey, my black cavera!" He grabbed his slippers and ran like a goat chased by thunder. He rushed through paths, dodged puddles, and finally reached the watermelon stand. But what he saw shocked him. A huge crowd had gathered. People were shouting, some were holding sticks, others had their phones out. The black cavera was open in front of everyone, and the head inside was now clearly visible. James froze. The watermelon seller saw him and pointed. "That's the man who left the cavera." All eyes turned to him. James blinked. "Me? No, my cavera was different. Mine had, chicken bones." "Chicken bones that looked like a human head?" someone asked. Another man shouted, "So all that gossip was true? This is why I stopped buying from him." "Yes," a woman cried. "That's why the meat is so soft. It's not cow or goat. It's something else." People rushed toward James. "You are wicked. You made us eat abomination." One man threw a small stone and it hit James on the shoulder. He started backing away. "Please, let me explain." But no one was listening. Just as the crowd was about to beat him properly, the village chairman, Mr. Dangana, arrived with 2 elders and a few strong men. "Stop!" the chairman shouted. The crowd paused. "Let us hear from James. What do you have to say about what was found in that cavera?" James wiped his face, stammering. "Chairman, I thought it was paw-paw." "Paw-paw," the chairman repeated. "Yes. My friend gave me a round paw-paw. I carried it in the cavera from the butchery. I must have confused it with something else." The chairman looked at him carefully. "So you're telling us you thought a human head was a paw-paw?" James nodded nervously. "Maybe it was dark. I was tired. I had sold a lot of meat today." People began shouting again. "Liar! So we've been eating humans. That's why there's no bone in the meat." One old woman cried out, "Hey, James, you have fed us forbidden meat. We were chewing sin and smiling." Another woman added, "I used to say his meat was sweeter than normal. Now I know why. Shame." The crowd got louder and more furious. The chairman raised his hand. "Quiet! Everyone calm down." Slowly, the noise dropped. "We cannot act like wild animals," he said. "This matter must be investigated. But I will say one thing. We need to check James's butchery tonight." The elders agreed. That evening, as villagers gathered at the square, a small group led by the chairman, elders, and a few trusted men went to James's butchery. They carried torches and tools. They opened the butchery. At first, nothing seemed wrong, until they moved the wooden boards on the floor. There, beneath the butchery, they found a deep pit, and inside it were bones. Many bones. Not just cow bones. Some looked different. One elder shook his head slowly. "My people," he said, "we have been buying meat without knowing what we were eating." The news spread quickly through Nakata. Back to the village center, James had been tied to a chair at the square. He looked tired and scared. His shirt was dirty and his mouth was dry. The chairman returned and looked at everyone. "We have found bones under his butchery," he said quietly. "Many bones." The village fell silent. James looked up, trembling. "I was forced into it. It started with one accident, and then I couldn't stop. People kept buying. Business was good." The chairman shook his head. "You could have sold real meat, like everyone else." James dropped his head. A woman from the back shouted, "This is why his meat was so soft, so tender. We have been eating abomination." Another woman cried, "I served it to my children. Oh, God!" That night, the villagers burned down James's butchery. The flames rose high into the sky, lighting up the village like a second sun. People prayed. Others wept. James was taken away by the local police, who arrived later that night. By the next morning, every butcher in Nakata had closed their shop, even the innocent ones. Nobody wanted meat anymore. Instead, women went to the market and bought fish, beans, or vegetables. One small boy told his mother, "Mummy, I don't want meat again. Let's eat dodo and egg." From that Easter Sunday, the people of Nakata village learned a big lesson. Just because something is cheap, soft, and tasty doesn't mean it is safe. And as for James, nobody ever saw him again. But whenever anyone in Nakata sees meat with no bone, they look at it twice and whisper, "Hope this one didn't study at James's butchery." After James was arrested on Easter Sunday, the police didn't waste time. The next morning, a team of officers went straight to his house, a large compound at the edge of Nakata village. People had always wondered how a butcher could afford such a fine home, with 3 bedrooms, iron gates, and even a satellite dish. The police searched the house thoroughly. In the back room, they found old bones, blood-stained Kavera bags, and large knives hidden under the bed. Some bones looked human. Others were mixed. It was clear. James hadn't just been selling cow meat. The investigation continued. Police officers interviewed villagers. Old men, mothers, even children came to give their stories. "His meat was soft like boiled yam," one woman said. "No bones at all," added another. "Even goat meat has bones. We only saw him slaughtering 1 or 2 cows, but the meat he sold was too much for just that," said Baba Shehu. Some villagers explained how James would always bring meat to the butchery at night. He said it was to keep it fresh. But now, they began to think. Maybe that nighttime work was to hide the truth. "We have been eating shame," an elder cried. And what shocked people the most was this. James would sometimes carry meat with bones home and bring back boneless meat to sell. What kind of exchange was that? No one could explain it. But now everything was clear. Something dark had been happening. 3 powerful lessons. 1. Not everything cheap is a blessing. Some things come at a great cost. James's meat was cheap, soft, and always available. But in the end, it cost the village their peace, dignity, and health. Proverbs 14:12, KJV. There is a way which seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. Parents must be careful. Just because something is cheap doesn't mean it is good. What your family eats must be clean, honest, and safe. 2. Evil hides in darkness, but truth will always come to light. James did his butchery work at night. He hid bones, changed meat, and lied to the villagers. But on Easter Sunday the truth was revealed, and it was too late to undo the damage. Luke 8:17, KJV. For nothing is secret that shall not be made manifest, neither anything hid that shall not be known and come abroad. Be careful what you allow in your home. What enters your pot enters your life. 3. A parent's role is to protect. Don't feed your family blindly. Mothers and fathers were giving James's meat to children, cheering as they ate what they didn't understand. We must not feed our families carelessly. 1 Timothy 5:8, KJV. But if any provide not for his own, and specially for those of his own house, he hath denied the faith. Providing includes checking what you feed them. Ask questions. Choose wisely. Cheap things can be very expensive later. If you enjoyed this story and want more eye-opening tales like this, don't forget to subscribe. Stay updated with powerful lessons, real-life drama, and African village mysteries that will leave you thinking. Click subscribe and join the journey today.